You're listening to Release Your Resistance with Bex Beltran, Episode 2. Welcome to Release Your Resistance. This is Bex. The only reason why any of us don't have what we want in life is because of our own resistance. Right now, I'm learning how to recognize and release my resistance, and this podcast tells you how you can release your resistance so that you can live the exact life that you want. Every Friday, I'll tell you about a concept or person I'm following that's teaching me to release my resistance. Thanks for joining me in this conversation. Let's get started. Do you ever take time to reflect back over your life and notice cycles or patterns, or see a difference between how you were then and how you are now? Do you ever look back at your past self and think, maybe she was lost, or clueless, or even on the wrong path? I am a big fan of self-reflection, and when I look back and notice the differences in my thinking then and now, my emotions then and now, and my day-to-day quality of life then and now, I can see a lot of improvement. And because I love to organize things, I have arranged the sources and reasons for all the improvements into 6 main concepts to share with you. My life is so much better because of these 6 concepts, and I wish I would have learned them earlier. So this podcast is all about these 6 topics. I just wanted to share them with you, even if you've already heard about them before. Or maybe you've never heard of them. In that case, you can consider how they made their impact on my life, and maybe they can impact your life as well. It is so interesting to me that these concepts made their way to me during about a 5 to 6 year period between 2013 and 2014, all the way up to today. And for some of the topics, it's even a tighter timeline. The other interesting to me is that these concepts came to me when I was already in my 40s. First, I wonder, why did it take me so long to figure this stuff out? Was it just me, or are these part of an awakening for people in general over the past 5 or 10 years? Or maybe just people like me? I don't know. Another question is, why didn't I realize any of this information before? Was I sleeping? Was I blind? Was I just too busy or too distracted? Or was the information not available for me to discover? I feel like it was a combination of me being distracted by marketing, much more on that later. I have so many strong thoughts about marketing, and these concepts not being in my awareness, in my sphere, because as I learn more, I am uncovering that all of this information has been around for a long time, and people have been talking about it. It just wasn't directly in front of me, and I didn't know to go look for it. That's another reason for this podcast. I am delighted by the improvements in my life, and I think I should convert everyone I know like I wish I had been converted sooner. So this podcast and this episode is specifically for you to hear. Maybe you're hearing about these concepts for the first time, and maybe you've heard of them before, but didn't know anyone who was personally following them or who personally believed them. So this is me telling you they're working for me, and maybe you'll want to check them out for yourself. The phrase "change my life" is kind of vague, so I was trying to think about specific benefits that these concepts have provided to me. So here are the benefits, and then I will get into the 6 concepts. The number 1 major benefit is that I like and know myself so much better now. I think in my 20s, I was just going along and looking outside of myself. I didn't even think I questioned if I liked myself or if I knew who I was. I was very outwardly focused. I compared myself a lot to what I saw on TV, what I assumed about other people who I knew, and even people who I didn't know. I held myself up to some imaginary societal ideas, and that's how I decided if I was attractive, or if I was good or bad or worthy or unworthy, or on the right track or off the beaten path. I didn't question those artificial standards or expectations. I didn't wonder who came up with them and why, and if those standards and expectations were right for me, or if they were what I wanted for myself. When I think back to myself in my 20s, I just accepted that things were a certain way without question, and I should follow along on that way because that's how it was done. And maybe I didn't think this, but really, what else was there? I had no idea. Interestingly enough, while looking back at my 20s, I do think I actually followed my intuition for some pretty major life decisions without knowing what that intuition was and without calling it that. But by my 30s, I had completely tamped down that intuition beyond any recognition or awareness. In my 30s, I was more inwardly focused. And I noticed a lot of things about myself that I didn't like. I was probably just resigned to them, like, well, that's me, that's who and how I am, without questioning if they were true or if they were necessary or if they could be changed. I was on a path that seemed laid out in front of me, and I was just following that path, one step in front of the other, with blinders on. If I did get a spark of curiosity about what was outside the path, I usually shut it down with doubt, fear, and lack of confidence. In my 30s is when I also got into a habit of thinking that everything required evidence and critical thinking. So that's when I really cultivated my analysis paralysis. If I didn't know exactly the smartest, most efficient, well-researched, and guaranteed outcome, I hesitated moving forward and putting myself out there. During my 30s, I had a lot of career and financial success, probably because I am smart and I could find efficient, well-researched, and guaranteed outcomes, and also because I was often in the right place at the right time. But that success was still on a path that I was on by default, not really questioning or wondering if it was a path I even wanted to be on. Now, in my 40s, as I think about myself and I notice what I don't like, I question those thoughts. If I'm being self-critical, I can ask myself if the criticism is even true or important. If it is, then I can think about how to improve it rather than just assume it's permanent. So now I am more focused on everything about myself that I really like and appreciate. And I have to say, I'm pretty pleased. I frequently notice during my routine moments like waking up in the morning or stepping outside of the gym after a Zumba class or stopped at a stoplight or as I open the covers to get into bed at night, how much I love my life, how lucky I feel, how delighted I am, how this is the perfect thing for me to be doing in this moment. In those moments, I'll notice the details that I doubt I would have paid any attention to before, that I feel so grateful for, like the smell of my morning coffee, or the artistic pleasure I take in choosing the morning's pen color, or the sun on my face as I step outside, or the luxury of the cool, clean sheets on my bed. So that's the first and most important benefit. I like and know myself now like I never did before. A second benefit of how my life has changed is that I am able to make decisions for myself intentionally instead of by default. This goes along with what I was just saying about knowing and liking myself. Now that I don't feel resigned to being or acting a certain way, I can choose how I want to be and how I want to act. I can notice my circumstances and choose my reaction to them based on the results I decide that I want for myself. I specifically remember in 2010 that I kept on hearing the word intentional, and I didn't even know what it meant. And now it's one of my favorite words. My shorthand definition of intentional is deciding on purpose instead of by default. So that means I was well into my 30s and I didn't understand that I could choose based on the factors most important to me, how I lived my life, and discard ideas, beliefs, and expectations that were not based on my chosen preferences. Isn't that crazy to think I was basically living according to some default settings decided somewhere outside of my own brain? So now I'm living intentionally and my life is so much better, and I know and like how I'm living my life. Another way my life has dramatically improved is that I have less and more. What does that mean? I have more confidence, more purpose, more money, more energy, and more time, and more space than I had before these concepts came into my life. And what do I have less of? Less stress, less worry, less guilt, and less doubt. I also have less clutter in my house and less time that I have to work. Plus, I literally weigh less. I lost about 30 pounds as a result of what I'm about to tell you. Another benefit that these 6 concepts provided me with is that I am in tune with my intuition, and I can and do listen to it. This one is mind-blowing for me. I remember hearing people talk about just listen to your gut. I was totally into that, but I didn't know how to do it. I didn't have a gut. I didn't know what it sounded like, and I couldn't listen to it. And I was on the hunt for someone who could teach me how to hear my intuition, and how to recognize a gut feeling. So now I am super in tune with my intuition, and I love to listen to it, and I love to ask it questions. And when I do listen to it, it guides me perfectly. And one more benefit of these 6 concepts is that I am now designing the life I want for myself, and I'm actually living it. I'm not living by default. I'm not living according to the rules of society or the track on a job or what my friends or family think I should do. I'm just deciding what I want, and then I'm going for it. And it seems so basic and so simple, but I really didn't even know I had that option in my 30s. And I know I have talked to friends who don't recognize that they also have that option too, right now. In fact, maybe you're listening right now thinking, it sounds unbelievable, or some people can design their own lives, but not most people. But I learned how. And I'm no different from most people. So here are the 6 concepts that have changed my life. Each of these will get their own episode. So be sure that you're subscribed so that you can hear these episodes when they come out. But for now, I'll just give you an overview and a brief explanation. The first concept is morning pages. I sit down for at least 20 minutes every morning, pretty much before I do anything else, and I write in my journal. This ritual has given me so much more than I ever imagined. I have kept journals and diaries at different times in my life, and usually I would write in my diary at night before going to bed. But writing in the morning is definitely the right way for me now at this time in my life. I have learned so much about myself. I have solved so many of my own problems. I've come up with amazing ideas. I've had meaningful conversations with my inner voice. My morning writing time is my favorite part of my day, and I designed the rest of my schedule around it. I'm serious. There are only a very few things that I'll agree to do early in the morning because I value this time so much. The second concept that's changed my life is self-coaching. Self-coaching is examining my thoughts without acceptance or judgment and remembering that my thoughts are my choice. This concept lets me be aware of my thoughts and reminds me to notice the results that those thoughts are creating and then intentionally decide to either continue thinking those thoughts to get the same results or choose different thoughts to think to get different results. I frequently do my self-coaching as I'm writing in the morning, but I also do it mentally throughout the day. And I have a few self-coaching friends who I love geeking out with. We talk about identifying thoughts and noticing neutral circumstances. And I have a few episodes planned when I will go into depth about self-coaching, so make sure you're subscribed so you can hear exactly what I'm talking about. The third concept is actually 3 in 1, but they all go together so well, so here they are: financial independence, minimalism, and the 21-day fix. All 3 of these include the idea of deciding in advance, intention, constraint, and enough. Financial independence is the discipline of having enough resources, usually through investments and passive income, to know that I don't need to have a job if I don't want to. It's the independence of knowing my basic needs are already met for the rest of my life without being dependent on an employer. It provides so much freedom in my lifestyle because it means I can work if I want to, but I get to choose how many hours I work, what kind of work I do, how long I want to work, for example, seasonally or permanently, and who I want to work with and for. It means I'm not trapped in a situation that no longer serves me just because I need to collect that specific amount of money every month in order to meet my needs. Minimalism, to me, is a very similar concept. It means that I have the discipline of having enough resources, for example, possessions, to live my life comfortably. So I have exactly the things that I want and nothing that I don't want. Minimalism is also an aesthetic, so if you think about a room with no art and only a few pieces of furniture, and it's usually all white or black and white, and there's a lot of open space, well, that's not what I'm talking about when I talk about the concepts that changed my life, but I do like that look for other people, just not for me. I like color too much. The third part of this concept that I grouped together is a weight loss program from a multi-level marketing company. You might be thinking, what? One of these things is not like the other, but Beachbody's 21-day fix plan literally changed my life. It changed my habits, it changed my tastes, it changed how I thought about food and food preparation, and I lost 30 pounds in a very happy and effortless way. Again, the common theme here is I was being intentional about what I would eat, only eating what I wanted and not eating what I didn't really want or need. And I ate enough. Oh, and the program includes colorful food containers. So you know I liked referring to food in a color code. So that's 3 concepts in one. The 4th concept that changed my life was maybe the biggest surprise for me, and it's tarot. Yes, that's T-A-R-O-T, tarot. This is the concept that taught me how to tune into my intuition. It taught me that life is all about cycles. It demonstrated to me the undeniable human experience. And it opened me up to the world of woo, which I would have totally shunned and denied and not even considered without my introduction and love affair with tarot. I actually experimented with being a tarot reader for a while, and I learned so much. And I had a lot of fun with that. And because of all these other concepts that I've learned, I realized that being a tarot reader was not an intentional choice I wanted to make for myself, and it wasn't part of the life I was designing for myself. So although I still love and believe in and think about tarot frequently, this concept is more in the past for me, but it played such an important role in my transformation that it made it to this list of 6. And I would love to share my tarot journey and insights with you in future episodes. The 5th concept is the phrase, life is the story I tell myself. I can't remember how I first came upon this phrase, but once I figured it out, and even once I just decided to experiment with it, I realized I could drop the parts of my life that didn't align with who I want to be, who I really am, and start to orchestrate the parts of my life that do fit. And this is just so amazing to me. I mean, who really decides how your life is going to be? Who you're going to be? Who really is in charge of deciding that? Not your parents, not society, not your employer, not your partner. It's you. So I've been playing with this and practicing this, and I've been imagining what life do I want for myself and visualizing it and taking steps towards it. Producing this podcast is an example of getting me closer to the life that I want for myself, because the story I tell myself is that I'm an artist and a creator. So here I am, creating my art. The 6th concept that changed my life is having an abundance mindset. This is so much better. Abundance is a deep and varied topic, but what it means to me is everything in life can be looked at from fear or from love, from scarcity or from abundance. Remember when I was describing to you how I lived in my 30s? How when I would get a spark of inspiration or curiosity, I would shut it down with fear? That's an example of how I was living in a scarcity mindset. When I switched to an abundance mindset, a whole new side opened up for me. And it is so much better. It's so much more fun. And there are so many more possibilities. And I am still learning this. I'm definitely using self-coaching to notice my scarce thoughts and question them. I definitely still have a lot of default thinking habits left over. And my ego loves to give me so many reasons why I shouldn't try things or why something isn't possible. But I see so much progress too. I see opportunities come into my life when I'm open to them. I see synchronicities that seem inexplicable. And one thing I'm really noticing is when I recognize a scarcity mindset in someone else when I'm talking with them or listening to them. I don't mean I'm judging them. Well, maybe I am, but not from a place where I think I'm better. It's more like I recognize something that used to be true for me, and it's familiar when I see it in other people, but I know for sure it doesn't fit me anymore. So for example, I was following a podcast that I was really interested in. I thought the host was really smart and had amazing conversations with her guests, but something was off to me, and I couldn't figure out why I wasn't totally into her, because on paper, she hit all the right notes for me. Then, as I was listening to an interview she was doing, I heard how some of her questions were coming from a place of scarcity and worry that there wouldn't be enough. She was asking questions along the lines of, what if you don't get yours? That's when I realized why I had that reaction to her. That realization was really helpful to me, because then I could identify what was off-putting to me about her and keep listening, knowing she just hasn't learned it yet. She just doesn't know it yet. And I could still appreciate all the great content and information while overlooking that one little difference. So those are the 6 concepts. I guess if I had to come up with the concepts I was living my life by before, they must have been something like, there's a certain way to do things, go along to get along, and trust society and sometimes authorities. Those suck. These are so much better. And as I was discussing, did you notice any resistance coming up for you about any of these concepts? I can guarantee if you would have asked my 33-year-old self about some of these 6, I would have had a strong argument against at least 2 of them, and I would have shrugged off another 2 or 3. If I had to make a bumper sticker to contain all of these concepts at once, it might be something like, know and trust yourself. So, am I saying that you should adopt these concepts? Well, should is a loaded word that I'll get to in a later episode, so no, I am not saying that you should, but I am offering that you could. And I'm wondering if you've heard of them, and have you tried any of them? And I'm curious to know what you think. You can email me at hi@bexb.org. That's hi@bexb.org. Or drop me a line on social media. Tell me what's on your mind now that you've heard about these concepts. Next episode, I'll be talking about feeling engaged, inspired, and delighted. I can't wait for you to hear what these words mean to me, how I came up with them for myself, and how I'm using them now in my everyday life. That episode is ready for you now. Go get it, and I'll talk to you then. This has been Release Your Resistance. Thanks for listening. If you like this podcast, make sure you are subscribed and please leave me a review on iTunes. If you'd like to continue this conversation one-on-one or in real time, come visit me on my site at bexb.org to see how we can work together.